Hello, and welcome to another English 101 video. Thanks for watching in advance, and thanks for all your hard work on the op-ed. I am very much looking forward to reading those. As usual, I will have feedback entered into Canvas for you about them as soon as I've got them graded. But now, of course, we don't have any time to waste. We've got to get into the next assignment because this is what this video is about. I want to talk to you about how the last two assignments of the last two major papers of the semester are connected, right? So you're going to write two papers about the same topic. So you'll see that in the materials this week, there's a page where you can read about the two different topics you have to choose from so that you can decide which one you're going to write both papers about. And sometimes responses from students are like, well, how am I supposed to write two papers about the same thing? Well, that's because when we think about different academic writing genres, there are different things that are required of you, right? I'm not going to ask you to write the same paper twice. That sounds terrible, right? Instead, you're going to write two different types of papers. The first one, the one that you're going to start working on this week, is an annotated bibliography. This is actually a fairly common academic genre. Many of my students that I run into after they've taken me for 101 tell me that they've had annotated bibliography assignments, either in English 102 or even in other disciplines. It's a relatively common genre, and so I think it's good for students to get some experience with it, but that's not the only reason I have assigned it here, because the idea of this assignment is that after you choose which topic you're going to research and write about, you're going to choose some sources, some credible sources that you're going to use in the final paper of the semester. And so the annotated bibliography is basically just all about the sources you chose. It's you telling me why they're credible, it's you explaining to me their contents, and you telling me how you think you might use them in the last paper of the semester. And yes, I know in the past we've talked about how you have to think about who the audience for your paper is, who the audience for your papers is. In the annotated bibliography, this is the only paper of the semester where the audience is just me, right? It is a tool for us to work together to make sure you have chosen credible sources and that you understand them well so that you can be successful in the final paper of the semester, the position paper, which is worth quite a few points because it is given in lieu of a final exam, right? And believe me, you do have to know the sources really well to create the annotations, because as you see, when you look at the directions, you can't use quoted material from the sources. Okay, that would be a substitute for really understanding them. If you really, really understand a short article about something, you can explain it in your own words without using quotes. And so that's what I expect in the annotations. Why don't you pause the video really quick and move on to the next, hit the next button so that you can actually go ahead and read the directions at least once and maybe look at some of the links that are there and then come back and we'll talk some more. So if you looked at the directions, right, then I'm sure you saw how this is not at all a 5-paragraph essay, right? I have heard some students refer to this as a works cited page plus, right? Because it's a list of 5 sources. It's citations for 5 sources only. After each citation, there is what's called an annotation. What is an annotation? It's a chunk of information about the source. And this explains to you what that chunk is, right? And of course, the Prezi goes into detail about how you assemble this, right? And we've got some other materials this week that have an example of an annotation so that you can kind of understand what these things look like. But just really, really quick here, in case you didn't click the link yet, let's just go ahead and look at this, right? So I click the link to the sample papers. It takes me to the annotated bibliography toolbox, right, which has this link that's in quite a few places in addition to the instructions, and then also some stuff we're going to talk about next week. But look, here's the sample papers, right? You can choose either topic. either way, I've got an A paper from a past student that you can take a look at so that you can understand what I'm looking for here. Do you see this? There's no introduction. There is no conclusion. Right? What is it? It's a citation about a source that this student found and a chunk of information about the source, the annotation. We'll talk more about the contents of the annotation later. There's some materials this week about that. But I mostly just wanted you to see this like visually so that you understand that, again, if you've done an annotated bibliography before, it's pretty good practice, right? Because maybe your other instructor might have wanted something different in the annotations than me, but the principle is the same. But most students that I get at the 101 level, they haven't done something like this before, and so you're going to need to read the instructions really closely and look at the samples for inspiration. I always like to have sample papers because I know for me personally, if I'm going to learn how to do something, even if it's to, change the gasket on my shower drain, I need to see a video of somebody doing that so I know if I'm doing it right. So anyhow, that's what sample papers are for, but I guess you probably already knew that. That's it for this video. Like I always say, I like to keep them short in the hopes that you'll watch them all the way through. So go ahead and click through the rest of this week's content. Be sure to read it carefully. As always, message me in Canvas if you have any questions. If you hang in there with me, right, you complete the quiz, and then you'll see there's an assignment towards the end of the week. At the end of the week, you're going to have your first annotation. You're going to have it done. You will only need 4 more, and I'm happy to give you the source. You don't have to use that source, right? You could always pick a different one for what, but I do like to give you some practice with a source that I know is vetted, and it's a great way for you to practice doing annotations. So you'll read more about that at the end of the week. Take care now. We'll see you in the next video.